good, YouTube? Ron with YTC Beats back with another video. In this one we are going to be taking a look at doing side chaining in Logic Pro 10 with the stock compressor. I'm just going to do a real quick run through of how I use it. A lot of the times side chaining comes into play when you want to side chain the bass to the kick so that the kick kind of pops out. Essentially what happens is the bass gets compressed for milliseconds just to allow the kick to kind of poke its head through and then drop back out, just so you can kind of distinguish the kick. Especially with the lower frequencies, things tend to get muddy. This is a really popular technique to have both of those low end sounds occupy that territory without clashing too much. One thing that might be different about this one is that I also like to sidechain my snares too. I like to sidechain, anything in the frequency of the snares in the same effect that happens with the bass and the kick. I like to have the snare kind of come out a little bit more by sidechaining some instruments to the snare as well. So without further ado, let's hop into the video and see what sidechaining is all about. Alright, so as you can see, I have this track that I was working on today, and let's play it real quick just to get an idea. Alright, so nothing too crazy there, but you could tell with when all of the instruments kind of come in the second half of this intro, the bass and the kick kind of start to get a little bit muddy, and you can't distinguish both of the low end frequencies of each. So what I'm gonna try to do, and what is a common technique to solve this, rather than kind of EQing each of the frequencies, that's also another common technique. What I'm gonna try and do is I'm gonna sidechain the bass to the kick, and I already have one up here. So I use the this is the Logic stock compressor here, and let's solo out both of these. So I actually have a drum loop, so the kick isn't separate from the snare. But like I said in the the first half of the video, I tend to like to kind of sidechain my snare also. Again, I don't know if that's the proper way of doing things. If the purists of the engineering world want to kind of downplay that, or correct me on that, then so be it. But I kind of like it, and I've kind of taken a liking to how the sound comes out. Yeah, so we have a loop, a drum loop, and we have Logic stock compressor on our bass. We're gonna hear the drum loop and the bass now soloed out. What you want to do is go to your bass track, which is this electric right here, and you want to add a compressor. So add Logic stock compressor, click on it, and then now you have this. And then the next thing you want to do is look on the upper right hand side of this window, and you'll have a choice to sidechain. Up here, what you want to do is sidechain. You want to click and select what you want to sidechain off of. And what I want to do is the brake loop, BB290 brake loop and grill, brake loop grill. So what that's gonna do is, instead of analyzing its own sound to figure out when to compress, now it's gonna base its compression off of the kick and in this case the drum loop. You know, a lot of the times it's just gonna be the kick. So now it's gonna determine when to compress the bass based on the loudness of whatever you're sidechaining it to. In this case, again, it's going to be the drum loop with the kick and the snare. So let's take a listen to it. Now without it. So if you listen very closely, you can see how the bass kind of ducks out for a second. It lets the kick kind of come through really quick and then comes back in. So it opens up some space for the kick to kind of come through. And what's happening, why I have the graph on the screen, I kind of wanted to show you guys some visualization as to what exactly is happening with the bass here. So if you take a look at the graph here, turn it on. So you can see whenever the kick and the snare, whatever I'm sidechaining to reaches that threshold of, you know, what is this, negative 21.5 dB. Whenever it reaches that, then the compressor comes in, and that valley is where it compresses the sound of the bass, and then it comes back up really quick. So that valley is that chance for the kick to kind of come through. If we play it again. And you can notice, you know, it's a really quick attack and a really quick release, just so, you know, it's not like a woofing kind of drum and bass kind of, you know, side chaining going on. This is really more of, I guess you could say, kind of a hip hop side chaining compression, where I like to just kind of carve out some room for the kick and the low end and the bass in this case. So let's take a listen to that again. Without it. See, and you kind of notice that without it, the kick kind of gets lost. You can kind of still feel the kick, but you don't really get, I want to say, you don't feel the lower mid of the kick. Maybe like around the 200 to 500. Doing this, it kind of just, you know, gives it a little room to... It gives you that extra oomph and, you know, a little bit of clarity to the kick. So that's why this is like a super simple way to kind of get a cleaner mix in your tracks. And again, like, I'm not like the super engineer. It's just something that I've been doing, that I've been noticing on my end, that's been helping me create or eliminate that muddiness in the low end section. And this is what I've been doing. And then also, the other unique thing that I do sometimes is I sidechain also the snare. In this case, the snare is actually part of the sound that I'm sidechaining. But if it wasn't, then I would bust the two out. I'd bust the drum, the kick and the snare out to its own bus, and then sidechain off of that bus. Maybe, you know, maybe I'll make another video on that, but this is just wanted to make a pretty simple video on sidechaining and how to do that. So, I mean, if you wanted to try and sidechain the snare, you would go through the exact same process that you just saw me do with the bass. And then let's listen to the track with all the side chaining going on. The snare even comes through a little bit more, you know. It has that same effect that's happening with the kick and the bass. The snare just gets a little bit of time to kind of hit that transient and then buck out. So again, maybe it might be unorthodox. I don't really know, but it's just something that I've been doing and I've been experimenting with, and I've been liking the results, so I just been going with it. So yeah, that is my video on side chaining using Logic stock compressor to achieve side chaining with your kick and your snare or whatever you want to side chain it to. Hopefully you guys found this video useful. Hopefully you guys experiment with it and learn something from it. And if you guys have any comments, please leave them in the comment section below. Drop a like if you guys enjoyed this video. If you learned something, hit that like button, subscribe. I got beats, I got tips and tricks, and a lot of different stuff on the YouTube channel on the way. So thanks again for checking this out. Hit subscribe. Till the next video. Peace.